It's not interesting just to present a portrait of a robot. An artwork should have something to say, should have a message in it, just like a short film. And it's even harder in our work. You have just one frame to tell your message. Even if it is a really simple message, simple story, I must do it.
All right, we are back once again for the Pencil Kings podcast. And today's guest is a little bit different, although he's worked at some of the exact same studios that our previous guest have. And his name is Mohammad Hossein. Mohammad is doing all of his work out of Iran, and he's based in Iran. And it's through the internet that he can have the ability to reach out and connect with a lot of people. Often it's easy to feel like you don't have enough opportunity or that you're stuck somewhere. But I mean, Mohammad has pushed past much harder difficulties than a lot of people that I've talked to. Welcome to the call, Mohammad. I'm very pleased to have you on the call today. How are you doing?
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me to participate in your interview. There are some difficulties here, but we're just coping with it. It's fine.
I love that attitude. When I saw your work, I was really impressed. And then when I saw how old you were, I was maybe like 10 times impressed because your work has style to it and a finished quality that I think is rare for someone so young. You're 26 years old, correct?
Yes, I'm 26 now, and thank you for the compliment.
So you probably haven't seen Mohammed's website, but if you're interested, you can go to, let me just bring it up here, www.mhattaran.com and look at his gallery. And it's just breathtaking. He does a lot of work with robots and mechanical objects. And it's really impressive to see the level of detail and how polished everything is. And so I guess that's the place where I want to start. How did you get started and how can you be so awesome so young? Please tell us the secret.
Thank you very much. Actually, you may be surprised, but when I was 3 years old, I started painting. And my mother has collected most of my paintings. When I just recently got back to them and viewed that archive, most of my paintings were mechanical things. I just used to paint construction machines, cranes, dozers. I painted robots, spaceships. And now I see that it's been always my favorite issue to paint mechanical things and stuff. And when I was a teenage, I shifted into cartoons and caricature. I spent some years doing that. Then I found out that this is not actually my thing. I really like robots and mechanical. When I watched Transformers movie for the first time, that forced me to start 3D art. So I signed up into a 3ds Max class. But from the very first day, I love to learn ZBrush. But for almost everyone, it's hard switching to a new software. I tried a couple of times. I just simply failed. ZBrush is a little different from any usual software.
Yeah, definitely.
But one day, I had a friend and he used to think that I'm doing my artworks with ZBrush, and he used to think that I am really professional in ZBrush, and I just couldn't let him down. And really, I didn't have the courage to tell him that I don't know ZBrush. I was embarrassed. So I was forced not only to learn ZBrush in a short while, but to become somehow professional and deliver an outstanding artwork in a just short while. So that was a push for me to start ZBrush. As soon as I learned ZBrush, I knew that this is my thing. And so I started ZBrush, and I like it really much.
So, Mohammad, I'm really curious. what you might say to those people who feel like they don't have opportunities, because what are some of the big projects that you've worked on or that you're most proud of? I saw on your website that you'd worked for Blur Studio, which I know is one of the best studios for doing video game trailers and movie cinematics. But what are some of the projects that you're most proud of, first of all?
Actually, I am a freelancer for Blur Studio. I delivered some illustrations for packaging the graphic cards for Sapphire company, and it's one of the biggest companies in delivering graphic cards with AMD core, and I like it very much. I made about 12 artworks for their packagings, and just you can see them in the stores now. The graphic cards and the packages and my works are on it. I like that project very much. And there is one other project for a Japanese company. I made a mechanical character, and they 3D printed it in a real scale of a human size, and they.
Oh wow!
Yes, and it was really awesome. I liked it very much, and they put LED lights in it, painted it like metal, and I liked it. Yes,
that's very cool. So you've had opportunity to work with some bigger studios, to have your work displayed in places. So when you said you learned 3D Studio Max, how did you learn? Because obviously you have a lot of experience from thinking about mechanical things and being familiar with them. Do you think because you're so familiar with drawing these, you have the idea in your head and you just need to learn to make the tool to do this idea? But maybe somebody who's starting from nothing, they don't have an idea and they don't know how to use the software. So it's a lot more difficult for them.
Let me start with my learning 3D Studio. Actually, I prefer self-learning. I just downloaded some tutorials from internet. I bought some learning packages, but I failed again. I failed many times. So finally, I signed up in a school. So I just signed up in 3D Studio Max classes, and that was it. For your other question, yes, learning 3D Studio Max and learning ZBrush for me was just learning a tool, and I knew how to make mechanical objects. I see the world mechanically, and I am sensitive to mechanical things around me. The most important thing that you must have is the interest in mechanical stuff, and you can find your way. And you just have to look through it, be curious. When I'm writing and I saw a special construction machine, I just draw my cell phone and take pictures from it. Actually, I have a very rich archive from these pictures. From those who love mechanical, they should learn what a mechanical piece, what parts make mechanical. Then they can use any tool. Tools are not important really. They can use traditional painting, digital painting, 3D modeling, even traditional sculpting. The important thing is that you know how to create mechanical art. There is not really a rule for it. At least I don't know a book that you can learn mechanical painting, modeling. Yes, there are some references how to hard surfaces cut in ZBrush, how to have polished surfaces. Yes, there are just learning tools. But you can't easily teach someone how to create a mechanical thing. I'm a student of master's, and I'm studying animation in master's. As my thesis, I'm working on how can I teach people to learn to create mechanical pieces. And it's really hard. I'm just making rules for it, and I see that there is not really a certain rule. Any artist in the world has his own rules. I can recommend them just to look in real world and look in big artist artworks. It's really useful also.
I have something more, something none of your dry as dust professors and routine-ridden doctors have. Love, devotion, passion.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, one of the things that you just said about how the software package is just a tool. And the tool is not so important, but I feel like, for me, that I felt like by learning Photoshop, it would allow me to become an artist, but it's actually the other way around. You learn to be an artist first, and then Photoshop is just like using a different brush or using a different kind of pencil or a different kind of paper or a different technique. And to think of it like Photoshop and becoming an artist goes together is the wrong way. It's separate. You should just look at becoming an artist, and if Photoshop can help you to get there, then that's fine, but you should have some ideas of what you want to make before you go into Photoshop. It's not like you're just exploring. I think that's very interesting, and I've never really thought of it that way before. I always looked at it like I was exploring when I was in the 3D program, instead of having a very clear idea of what I was trying to make and what I was trying to say. I didn't have a great understanding of things like composition and lighting, especially when I started. And I can really see in your artwork that the composition is so interesting, and the lighting that you use is very interesting, and it really tells a story. It's not just, here's a beautiful 3D model with some nice lighting on it and an interesting background. There's a lot more that you're saying with this. It shows me what's really possible to show and to say with your 3D art when you have a very clear idea. And I think that's your secret weapon or your secret advantage, is that from the age of 3, you're very fascinated and interested in mechanical objects. So for many, many years, you're building up this knowledge in your head. With 3D, you can just take that knowledge and take it apart and put it together in new, exciting ways and try things. And the 3D program just enables you to do that, quickly and accurately, so that then you can use it to say the things that you want to with your art, and to take those ideas in your mind and to show them on the screen.
And yes, that's correct. You mentioned it, the backstory in my artworks. And this is something that I have come into lately. When I started 3D illustrations, I didn't usually used to think about backstories. I think it's not interesting just to present a portrait of a robot. An artwork should have something to say, should have a message in it, just like a short film. And it's even harder in our work. You have just one frame to tell your message. Even if it is a really simple message, simple story, I must do it. I must put a hidden message in my work, put a hidden story in my work. And that's fun. The interesting thing about this is that when I am starting a work, I have no idea what I'm going to say. I just have a feeling. I don't know from the very first step from my work. I just start to sculpt, start to make modeling, and the ideas come. And this process continues until the very last stage, the very last step of my work.
I think it, I breathe it. Look out at the rain. Where anybody sees only a drop of water rolling down the window, I see a universe of beings animated with all the passions common to physical life.
Okay, the last thing that I want to ask you about, Mohammad, is the opportunities thing, because I feel like political relations between the US and Iran they are what they are, but I know that it does make things more difficult being in Iran if you want to work on projects that are coming out of the US. There's one member that we have inside Pencil Kings, and he has issues with sending payment for the website because there's no payment processors that he can easily get a hold of. So how do you get your work seen, and how do you get attention to your work? Obviously, you're a master of mechanical artwork and 3D rendering and creating beautiful compositions. What advice could you give to somebody who's in a country like Iran, or there's a lot of countries that are, when you think about them, you don't think of being an amazing CG country. For people who feel they don't have the opportunity, or it's too difficult to have their work seen. What can you say to those people to help them or to encourage them and give them an example of how they can, follow their dreams? And it doesn't really matter now where you are, because with the internet, we're all connected. What can you say to these people?
Yes, USA has put the heaviest sanctions in the history against Iran, and it's really hard, especially in payments. It's not legal to have international payments. But with all these difficulties, I am working. I have many friends that they are working, and there are always ways, some shortcuts, some other ways that you can manage it. However, there are odd ways, there are weird, but you can do it. Right as you said, internet connects us all. Internet is not about borders, it's not about countries. Internet is universal. No matter where you are on earth, you can always get the benefit of tutorials. You can always learn, be creative. It's not about political issues, and it's not about where you live. You have internet, and you can learn. And my recommendation for artists: use the internet, make use of it. There are many things in internet. We can get the benefit of them for free. We can learn many things. And the other thing, I recommend them to visit websites that have galleries of big artists. There are many of them. Visit artworks, visit galleries. I like them very much. I learned from them new ideas, and they are very useful. My last recommendation is have an online gallery for themselves too. That is very useful too. Just be online and be creative. Make yourself busy there.
Awesome. I just want to thank you so much for sharing some of your experience. For me, I learned, first of all, that when you start something from the age of 3 and you start thinking about the world in a certain way, that knowledge can really help you. So it does take time to build up all of this knowledge and all this information. But when you have that, you can learn the tools very quickly because you already know what you want to create. Instead of becoming an artist through the software, it's like you're already an artist, and then the software just comes to use as a tool. I think this separation, for me, I've never thought of it in this way, and I think it's actually very powerful to encourage people to start looking at the world through a different set of eyes. You need to understand the world. You need to understand other artwork. You need to understand what you want to say. Really think about it at a very, very deep level, because when you have a deep understanding of what you're trying to do, and then you go to the software tool, that is going to show, and people are going to appreciate that, and something that will help you to stand out. For me, that was a very big distinction between the two of these. So I want to thank you so much for being on the Pencil Kings podcast. People listening, if you're in a place where you think that you don't have opportunity, or you're looking for an example of somebody that you can look up to, Mohammad is a perfect example of someone that's done a lot, and it doesn't matter where you're at or what kind of borders or what kind of, all that doesn't really matter. What matters is producing good artwork and being connected with your artwork, and then also being able to share it with the world so that, these opportunities can find you. Just to finish off, I'm going to read off Mohammad's website once again. It's www.mhattaran.com. And we will have full show notes for this as well at pencilkings.com/Mohammad Hossein. That will be MOHAMMAD-HOSSEIN. Thank you again, Mohammad, so much. Do you have any last words to say before we finish this recording?
Well, thank you. It was my pleasure, and be creative. That's it.
Be creative. Awesome. So yeah, that's it for the Pencil Kings podcast. If you're listening to this and you're interested about what we do, we help artists learn from professionals like Mohammad, although we don't have any of his lessons yet, but we find professional artists and get them to show you how they work and then give you access to all of these different courses so that you can improve your own work by learning from people that are a few steps ahead of you. So thanks again for listening, and we'll be back next Wednesday with the next episode of the Pencil Kings podcast. Take care.
Scope demands patience, skill, years of practice.
Ah, you talk like a fool. I would trade a century of practice for an ounce of inspiration.
That does it for another episode of the Pencil Kings podcast. You can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, we're everywhere. See you guys soon.